Okay Reddit, what was your holy crap, need to get my life together moment? When my best friend told me to get the frick out of his apartment after I showed up there after a 3.5-day drug bender, I must have said something to him but I can't remember for the life of me what it was. He's spoken to me exactly one time since. I miss him but I've gotten sober and I got a new job and go to the gym every other day now. When I literally became a case study, I was 18. And on my third stint in a refeeding clinic for anorexia. Every time I went in, I would be hyper-compliant until they let me out and then immediately revert to my old behavior. The third time I had a psychiatrist ask me if I could be a case study for their thesis on the rate of relapse and mortality in anorexic youth. I was 32 kilos, 70 lb, at 5'4". I had the bone density of an astronaut. I have so many digestive problems now that were only worse then. And somehow the idea that I was going to be someone's case study was the moment I figured out I was going to die if I kept this up. I am nearly a decade older now and I weigh a much healthier amount. No idea what it is because I don't own a scale and haven't in over a year. It's often still a struggle and likely will be for life, but I'm doing a lot better now. Man, if we'd like to use you as an example of how people die from this disease isn't a giant red flag that something's wrong with your life, I don't know what is. Just another alcohol related post here. Drinking 3 pints of 100 proof Smirnoff a day. I thought I was functional. I got sick with a virus. Nothing serious, but I couldn't keep food or liquids down for 48 hours. I was throwing up and had a high fever. Through all of this I was shaking in my bed and managed to still keep my vodka down, because the thought of an alcohol withdrawal seizure scared the frick out of me. Cleaned up a month later and now I'm at just over 2 months sober. Crap needed to change and it has gotten better. I was 25 and subletting a shithole apartment from a co-worker in this restaurant we both worked at for the summer. I didn't graduate high school and had worked these ball-busting jobs since I was 17 and had really no future prospects. I was sitting up one night on the computer and had the I can't believe this is where I am and this is what I'm doing intrusive thoughts. I really was at rock bottom. I looked at my local community college website that night and was signed up for classes the next day. Eventually, I got my GED as well so that I could transfer to university after my time was done there. I'm getting ready to start my master's in education in 2 weeks. I am a GED teacher and you are why I do this job. Congrats, but be sure to come back to your GED program and talk to the students. Your story will motivate them 100x better than anything I could say. Drunk making out with a bouncer at a bar in Miami because I thought it would get me and my friends into the bar faster. We were already in the bar. Christopher's friends must really like coming over to your house. I once downloaded a movie that I owned. It was on a shelf across the room, but I was too lazy to get out of my chair and go get it, so I just downloaded it. Then as I sat there watching the progress bar, I realized, geez, I better get a freaking life. So I went out for a walk instead. Saddest post so far. Applied to participate in a study about depression at my school. The intake interviewer said I was too depressed for the depression study. When my best friend looked me in the eye and said if you don't leave her, you will die. It took that to make me realize that I had spent the last 3 months drinking myself to sleep every night because the girl I was engaged to spent most of her time alternating between telling me how worthless and useless I was and accusing me of cheating. She told me daily how pathetic I was and how I was wasting my time with writing because I would never be published. It took 3 tries to finally get away from her, and then a wild couple of months where I tried to forget about all the crap she put me through while also swinging on a roller coaster of depression. 6 years later and I've had a short story published, a novel published, and I've been in therapy to fix the things she did to my brain. That best friend saved your life. I am lactose intolerant. I was obese and didn't care what I did with my body. I didn't work out. I didn't eat right. I didn't even maintain myself well. I one day ate 3 pints of ice cream in one sitting. I got incredibly sick. I mean almost anyone would, but even Marizo. After several days of feeling like absolute trash I decided enough was enough and started working out and eating healthy. Within a year I was down 70 pounds and by 18 months I was down 100 plus, and I've kept it off. That discipline helped me in other things in life. I got a better job and grew as a person, taking much more care of myself, relationships and my surroundings. Amazing what 3 pints of ice cream can do. So what you're saying is I should go eat 3 pints of ice cream. Dropped out of college, moved my way up the managerial ladder at Lowe's for the next 3 years, was offered a promotion to department manager and saw myself working retail at 50, still taking crap from entitled customers, went back to college and am now doing what I really love. No offense to retail workers, I just don't like people enough to make a career of that crap. I can't believe you don't want to work in retail, no one ever. Well, I'm currently waiting to hear back if I have clap or not, so I'm thinking it's anywhere from now to 48 hours from now. It's easily treatable, luckily, could have been a lot worse. Be safe. I had just been left by my now ex-wife who left out of the blue to go be with her new thing in Hawaii. I hate Hawaii now. Through a complicated arrangement where I was living in an apartment owned by my ex's boss. This bridge got burned during the divorce. I was being kicked out and was in the process of sleeping in my car and trying to find a new place. I was extremely depressed and was drinking all day every day, even while driving. So, one day I was driving home from work, about a 90-minute commute wherein I would drink beer and smoke weed to stay alert. A cop pulled behind me on the freeway and followed me for a good 5 minutes. He then put on the lights. I seriously almost crapped my freaking pants. I've never been so scared in my life. I knew I was fricked. There was no way to cover up. So I pull over. He walks up, and before he even reaches my window, a car rear-ends another car at full speed about 50 feet behind us. The cop says something like, "Get out of here safely," and then turned around running to go address the car accident. I was seconds away from losing my license, my job, my whole life really. I didn't drink for a few months after that encounter and I've since gotten that under control. But dang, it was the scariest moment ever, but it sure kicked my butt into gear. I got drunk off of whiskey by doing straight shots while I was alone. I then proceeded to black out, accidentally steal my neighbor's laundry out of the washing machine, and stuff the wet laundry into my drawers before passing out. Agreed. Waking up, drinking vodka till I pass out. Repeat. 4.5 months sober and couldn't be happier. When I stepped on the scale and was within 15 pounds of hitting 300, my heaviest was 287 pounds. Starting eating less, counting calories, switched to diet soda, going for long walks. I hate running, jogging. Currently weighing in at 184 pounds. Still a bit overweight BMI for my height, but it's way healthier than being obese. I am currently 276 and am starting to make the same changes. It's hard to avoid fried greasy food and the cravings. Jesus, they're hard to overcome. I ended up in the hospital with pancreatitis and withdrawal seizures due to my alcoholism. This was on the 31st of May. I have since been researching programs and have talked to a social worker. Haven't had a drink since the 30th, so it's a start. Good on you. I was in the same dang boat. If you haven't checked it out yet, our Stop Drinking has been helpful for me and lots of others. I will not drink with you today. When she told me she was pregnant, I was 17 years old. That was 28 years ago and we are still happily married, after a few bumps in the road along the way. But it was a cold dose of reality at 17 that I had a child on the way, and I needed to be prepared for that and get serious about my direction in life. I'm happy to report our son, now 27, is doing great as well, lives with his girlfriend and about to embark on a culinary career. Proud of you guys. I'm 19 and can't imagine experiencing that even now. Glad everything worked out for the better. Waking up on the floor after doing fentanyl-laced H and realizing that I just suffered an overdose. That was the 14th of June of last year and I'm still clean. The 14th of June was my last drug use. Too proud of you, brother. Told my non-confrontational dad that I thought I had a drinking problem. Having him flat out tell me I really did have a drinking problem was the end of me drinking. My brother-in-law is the most compassionate, kind person I know. He was the first person to use the word alcoholic to describe me, even though I already knew I had a problem. Hearing him say she's an alcoholic was a huge wake-up call. Recently I saw 2 Rush documentaries, Beyond the Lighted Stage and Rush Time Stands Still. I didn't know much about the band before that. Since then, about a month ago, I've fully invested myself in the band, listened to all their studio albums, watched every interview I could, researched them until I've read everything I can. That movie honestly woke me up from my life. I had a baby 2 years ago. I realized I don't know who I am anymore. I have no friends, no life, haven't had a haircut in 2 years. I just work all day and spend my weekends cleaning my house. I watched the last documentary where I saw them go from 17 years old to their 60s in the blink of an eye. Seeing what they have accomplished made me sit back and say, hey, what the frick are you doing with your life? You are wasting it. I'll be 30 next year and I'm going nowhere. I decided to start painting. Since I used to love art, something new I'm trying. I also decided to take up hiking. Every weekend I check out a new state park and try some trails. I'm totally new to this, so just getting into it, but it makes me happy. Something I look forward to every day. I decided to save money and buy a travel trailer so me and my husband and daughter can start doing road trips and seeing new places. Get out of our town. Now I'm looking for a new job, something that I'm into, something outside of fluorescent bulb office settings. I can't even describe what I'm feeling now, but I'm awake again. I have goals, things I'm interested in learning more about, and all the magical music to go along with it. Rush has changed my life. Rush is pretty bomb. Good on you. Ran away from my parents' house in New Hampshire at 16 and got locked up in NYC at 17. Only for 2 weeks. This was it for me. Completely turned my life around after. My buddy was visiting me in California. I had just moved there the year before from a small town in Maryland. The week before he was supposed to get there I had no job and like $30 in my bank account. I thought how crappy his trip would be and I felt like an awful friend for not having my life together. Ever since that day I've worked so hard and have absolutely come a long way. When I had gotten my heart broken by yet another guy and was crying in my bed and searching for a reason to live, right then and there I realized I need to stop trying to find people who make me happy. I need to learn to make myself happy because I am the only permanent person in my life. Now I have lived with that thought in mind for a while and I haven't been in such a good place mentally for years. My dinner was a whole boil-in-bag rice bag, a pack of brown gravy, and 2 burger patties. Just an enormous plate of food. I ate it weepily and started dieting right after. I've lost 80 pounds and can't imagine eating like that anymore. I had given up pretty much my entire life to my girlfriend at the time. I pretty much just woke up and tended to her every need until I went to bed. I felt like a slave. It was a terrible experience. I had given up most of my life for a year. I wasn't doing my hobbies. I wasn't paying attention to school, etc. It's a very long, complicated story, but basically I realized I needed to cut her out. When I finally did, my life completely changed and I turned it completely around. This hits me really hard. I feel like this about my relationship, but I live with him and don't know how to end it. The things he says in response. It's hard to leave. It's 7 AM here and I haven't slept whole night as I started to think about it. I have hit a point in my career where I get passed over due to my lack of a college degree. I'm a manager. I have direct reports. I manage all of the outbound freight for a $150 million company. I don't hold a manager title and get paid about $40k less a year than others in my same position. I have free college thanks to my military service. I just got accepted to college and start in the fall. Short version, was crappy to a chaplain, got sober, changed me forever. Long version, in the Air Force, first duty station was on Guam. I stayed drunk. And I mean a fifth a day drunk. Got too wild at the barracks and was taken in by the security police. A few hours later, locked in a room at the cop shop, and the duty chaplain walked in to talk to me. I asked him what it was like to be a virgin. He kind of laughed and told me he wasn't that kind of chaplain. Pulled out his wallet and showed me pictures of his wife and kids. I don't remember what we talked about after that, but he got them to release me and took me back to my barracks. I remembered what I said to him the night before. and it was like God slapped me upside my head. A chaplain gets out of bed in the middle of the night, leaving his family, to talk to a drunk that he doesn't even know, and the best I got is to ask him that. I wish I could say I never touched a drop after that, but it took a very hard year of trying to stay straight before I got. I've been clean and sober since November 8th, 1984. The lasting lesson for me is that you never know when a few kind words can change someone's life forever. I don't know that man's name, but I thank God for him every day. Your story is the reason why he was willing to get up in the middle of the night. Props to you. 3 years of unemployment and realizing that every problem was because of my presentation, drug use and how I spoke. I spent 3 months losing flab. 340, sold my PC and gaming stuff and bought some new clothing and got a haircut, started NA for my addiction and shotgunned my pathetic resume and got hired at a call center for at. 5 years later I am now making more than 3x as much as that call center, 18k to 65k, married and traveled to Japan twice. If you told me 5 years ago I'd be here I'd have called you and myself insane. In August of 2015, at age 25, I was arrested for 3 counts of drug possession and fraudulent possession of identifying information between 1050 items. Over the course of 4 months I had managed to take around $50,000 directly from banks, without resorting to good old-fashioned identity theft, all to support my secret drug habit. The final tally once I was in custody was 7 felonies, all in one shot. Before this, I had never so much as had a traffic ticket, and not a single person knew that I had become an addict or criminal, including my girlfriend of 3 years. I was quite literally leading a double life, and eventually lost everything. My job, reputation, friends, family, girlfriend, cars, apartment, dog, instruments, everything. Gone. I served 2 years 9 months on a 6-year sentence in the Texas prison system, TDC, and was released on parole 2 weeks ago. Wish me luck. Being stripped naked with 50 other men while guards scream at you and degrade you, shave your head, and pack you into a 30-man cage nuts to butts as they called it, was my holy crap moment. And that was just the first 5 minutes of prison. There were many more to come. Now, after countless hours of planning and thinking about it, I finally get the chance to get my life together. Here's to second chances. Sorry I got all serious on you guys, but thought I'd share. TLDR. Me and 50 other guys shaved our heads and got naked. Nuts to butts sounds like a Human Centipede sequel idea, but crap. Glad go here you're out now and on the road to recovery. Here's hoping for your smooth transition back into civilization. I was working a go-nowhere job as a night auditor in a hotel earning roughly a dong's length more than minimum wage and started seeing someone who had an adorable toddler. I realized I was going to be with this person for a long time, possibly for the rest of my life, and there was no way I was going to be able to provide for that little girl on a small salary working a graveyard shift. So I started studying and now I am going into my 2nd year for engineering. Doing academically well and searching for a somewhat decent engagement ring while attempting to think of a way to get my tiny 5-year-old future stepdaughter involved in the proposal. Life has turned around and is full of potential. When I was sitting there in the middle of a Mormon temple ceremony doing weird hand signals and chanting and whatnot, and suddenly it hit me that I have no place being Mormon and I didn't believe any of that nonsense. That was more than 12 years ago and I'm in a much better place now. Praise be. 1 week I was so irresponsible with my money that I got paid on a Friday and 3 days later had only $20 to get me through the next payday. I was so depressed, hungry, and embarrassed. I never considered myself rich until I had so little that I worried every second of the day how I would feed myself. Respect to those who have made it through chronic poverty. I got down to my last 65p, $0.87. Bought some oats. I was in a minor car accident a few months back and got laid off at work 2 weeks ago. That definitely feels like a I need to get my life together moment. The car accident was because I was tired. I was tired because I don't like my job that much and it made me kind of depressed. Maybe getting laid off will fix it or at least give me time to figure something out. I think you need to add an off in that first sentence. I had an unruly bar patron in a rear naked choke, tight enough so he knew I was serious, but loose enough he was still conscious, and had just pulled him off his feet towards the door. I was 28 going on 29, and just hit 4 years as a bouncer, and the same duration as a college dropout. 4 years of late nights watching the crowd with what I hoped was the right amount of diligence and paranoia, escorting people to the door, cleaning up spilled beer and vomiting the occasional inexplicable splash of blood on the door to the beer room. Once the guy was out and the situation dealt with, I thought to myself, maybe it's time I finished that English degree. After a fashion, I did. If your focus was in creative writing, you probably had some great material. It was 2014. I was working a dead-end retail job for 14 years. Bad marriage, overweight, hated life. Tried or so I thought to get myself out, but I realized later all I did was wallow in self-pity that no one wanted to hire me. One day at work, I was getting from the computer at work, and the store manager whom I had never really talked to just randomly said, "So what are you doing with your life? Why are you even here? Don't get me wrong. You're a great worker, but you're better than this place." We ended up having a really long conversation about life and goals, etc. I was a little mad at first. After going home to think about it, I realized what he said was true. The next day I was in better spirits. The next week I told my husband I wanted a divorce. Over the next few months I started to seriously look for work, enrolled back in school, started eating healthy, and eventually lost 85 pounds. A few months after our convo, and many interviews later, I found a great job. I make a living wage and then some. And just last year I bought a house. Early morning hours of my 31st birthday, I was coked up and with a very inexperienced college guy who really needed to clip his nails and who then broke down because he couldn't stay hard. I had met him less than an hour before at a party where I had been drinking and doing any drug I could find and sucking titties. I put my clothes on and called my friend who lived not far away from the house I was at and asked her to pick me up. I cried in her car and decided I needed to get my crap together. It's been 2 years and I haven't touched coke or any hard drug since then. Still sometimes make questionable choices in the sex department, but I'm getting better. I was in a 24-feet camper with a rotting floor. There were trash bags for windows. The roof leaked onto the couch. Big step up from homelessness a few months prior. It was pouring rain, the wind was about to rip the windows out, and I had nowhere safe to take my newborn son. I rode out a tornado, apologizing to this brand new human that we did not do better for him. My husband got home and I told him, "I don't care what we sell or who we owe money to for it, we need a house. We have to do better." All it had taken was a layoff and financial emergency to knock us to the dirt 2 months after deciding to start trying for a family and getting pregnant. And it took selling literally everything we owned that wasn't my husband's work vehicle to put money down on a house. But I am watching my toddler play with his toys in a real house. Impregnant again. We are way more secure now, and all it took was everything. Best thing we have done. Iraq. Sorry if this is formatted wrong. I've never posted on Reddit before. I'm a long time lurker on here but only recently created a username. Honestly, my holy crap, what have I done to my life has been a long time coming. It started in New Year's Eve 2012 when I was sexually assaulted. I spent almost a year following that getting drunk and chain smoking myself into oblivion. I moved home and got a decent job waiting tables, but was definitely still bitter and always drunk. I'm working hard now to 1. Act like an adult and 2. Be the better than I am now. I guess I'm still trying to pick myself up, but I've moved past not eating and always drinking to having a job and trying to control my drinking. Life's hard but I'm halfway out of the hole, I think. I assume this will be buried, but I guess. Thank you for reading. Sorry if the formatting was wrong or I spelled anything wrong. You're doing great. I'm really proud of you, fellow human. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.